Yahweh, as we begin this deep dive into the practical matters of stewardship and resources, we thank you for the clarity found in your word. We pray for wisdom to use the talents and the ideas you've entrusted to us. Help us to see you accurately, to guard our hearts from idolatry, and to align every temporary resource we hold with the purpose of your eternal kingdom. Amen. Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is focused on one of the most persistent and honestly often avoided conversations, normalizing the discussion about money and resources within a faith context. We are tackling the profoundly Yahweh-centered premise that if something is truly for you, given by the Master, that includes your ability to manage and multiply finances.
It's absolutely essential for us as believers to acknowledge that this isn't some side topic the scriptures, touch on lightly.
Right.
The Bible is saturated with guidance on how we are to interact, and maybe more importantly, how we are not to interact with wealth. Yeshua himself spoke extensively about money.
He really did.
Yeah, confirming that this is a subject that, it dictates the condition of our hearts. The true danger, as always, isn't the resource itself.
No.
It's allowing it to occupy the place that belongs only to the Creator. That's the core issue.
Okay, let's unpack this central conflict, the heart versus the dollar, because our material today really distills the vast biblical instruction into 4 foundational habits.
Right, practical habits.
Specific practices that help us align our finances with a life truly centered on Yahweh.
And we have to begin with the foundation, habit 1, which dictates all subsequent behavior. Accurately perceiving Yahweh.
Seeing him clearly.
Exactly. Our financial discipline, our generosity, our whole structure of resource management, it's all rooted in how we understand the Master.
And when you want to understand that link, that connection between perception and practice, you go straight to the parable of the talents, right? Matthew 25.
A classic example.
Yeah, the Master entrusts 3 servants with resources, talents, and he gives them these gifts according to their ability. That part's key too.
It is. And before we go further, we need to grasp the sheer scale here. A talent in the 1st century AD wasn't small change.
Not at all.
It was like 15 to 20 years' wages. Think about that.
Wow.
This was an astronomical, truly life-changing sum of money. It confirms this parable isn't just about, budgeting your grocery money week to week.
Right. This is big picture stewardship.
A massive, impactful stewardship.
Okay, so servants 1 and 2, they clearly saw their master accurately. They trusted him. They were diligent. They doubled their resources.
5 became 10, 2 became 4. Simple multiplication through action.
But then we meet the 3rd servant.
Yeah.
And he did nothing.
Just buried it. Hid the 1 talent he was given in the ground.
And this is where the theology gets sharp, like you said. The 3rd servant's failure wasn't just physical laziness, was it?
Not at all. When the master returned, the servant explains himself and his words. Well, they expose the real root of his inaction. In Matthew 25.24, he says it plainly.
What does he say?
Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid.
I was afraid.
There it is. That's the core. His perception was completely warped.
So if you're listening to this and you struggle with maybe financial paralysis, that fear that you'll lose it all, or fear of failure, fear of using your resources incorrectly, that fear often stems from the same place, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's a flawed perception of the Master. If a believer views Yahweh as demanding or punitive or just fundamentally unfair, they retreat.
They hide their talent.
Yeah, they're paralyzed by fear instead of being motivated by the love and, frankly, the abundance they see reflected in Yeshua's true character.
So the theological takeaway is pretty profound then. Inaction in stewardship is often just a symptom of insecurity about the giver himself.
That's it. So if you're struggling with discipline or feeling stuck with your finances, maybe the most actionable first step isn't even getting a budgeting app.
What is it then? It's getting into the scriptures, like really immerse yourself in the Gospels. See Yeshua's unconditional love, his patience, his provision on full display. That's how you start to see the Father accurately.
Okay, that revelation of an accurate, loving master leads us right into habit 2, which is stewarding ideas.
Makes sense.
If the fear is gone, or at least lessened, the freedom to act emerges. And this is where stewardship moves beyond just, cash in the bank. It encompasses the God-given ideas, or as the source called them, downloads, that he sends our way.
And this connects directly to personalized purpose. We believe each of us is uniquely designed to serve Yahweh's people, right?
Right.
So when we receive a direction, an idea for a service, maybe a piece of art, a digital product, whatever it is, and we just sit on it, we fail to act. That failure is actually a form of disobedience.
Wow, that's strong. Disobedience.
Well, yeah. We fail to use the intellectual or creative resources He has entrusted to us to serve the world He loves. Okay, this resonates so deeply with current trends, especially what you see online. So many believers on social media have brilliant ideas. Faith-based journals, unique apparel designs, specialized coaching services.
You see it all the time.
But they hit this wall, the wall of execution. They imagine needing massive upfront inventory, complicated shipping logistics, big financial investments.
And they just stop. They sit on the idea because the barrier to entry feels way too high.
Yeah, they get overwhelmed.
And that is where we must recognize that modern resources, even technology, are also tools for kingdom expansion. We shouldn't be rigid in how we steward. We need to use what's available.
Okay, give an example.
Well, for instance, the source highlighted using modern tools like drop shipping or print-on-demand services. This isn't really about the logistics themselves. It's about making execution accessible.
How does that work practically?
It allows you to, say, design that faith-based merchandise, mugs, shirts, posters, whatever, and connect it to an existing platform, maybe like Etsy or your own website. And you can do all that without spending a massive amount of capital up front on inventory. The system handles the printing and shipping after an order is placed, often using local networks around the world.
So you execute the idea without the paralysis of having, like, boxes of unsold T-shirts in your garage.
Exactly. And the connection here is vital. Using tools like Printful or even leveraging something like AI, say ChatGPT, to help draft better product descriptions.
Yeah.
That's not secularizing your idea.
Interesting point.
These are just modern efficiencies. They help you execute the download from Yahweh, potentially creating sustainable streams of income that are intended to serve His people and fund His work on earth. Stewardship is fundamentally about application.
That's a really powerful bridge. Okay, so moving from application, let's pivot to habit 3, guarding your heart against idolatry. Money is a tool, we know this, but our culture often elevates it to something much more, like a deity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We live in a culture that is just fixated on external markers of success. Society tends to judge people based on the display of wealth, the car, the house, the vacations you post online.
Right, the outward appearance.
But Yahweh looks only at the heart, so we have to consistently actively check ourselves to make sure money hasn't somehow crept into that #1 spot in our inner worship life.
This is such a critical distinction, especially when we think about Yahweh as our provider. When we're in a season of, let's say, financial dependency, maybe bills are tight, maybe facing a layoff, it feels almost easy or at least necessary to cling to Him.
Yeah, you really experience Him as Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides. In those moments, you're desperate for His intervention. You feel that need intensely.
But the critical question the source raises is this. Do we maintain that same level of dependence, that same closeness, that same maybe desperate appreciation for Him when we're experiencing financial surplus? Or even just feeling comfortable?
That's the test, isn't it? When you move from desperation to comfort, the temptation is always to shift your trust, even subtly, from the giver to the resource itself.
So how do we guard against that? We need practical introspection here. Our source provided 2 really excellent, tangible heart check questions, things the listener could integrate maybe into a monthly or even weekly routine.
Good. What are they?
First, where am I actually spending my money? If an outsider just audited my bank account, what resources or priorities would they conclude I love the most based on those transactions?
Ooh, that's revealing. Okay, what's the second one?
Second, is my daily relationship with Yahweh fundamentally different in seasons of financial dependency versus seasons of financial comfort or surplus?
Wow. Yeah. Because if the blessing, the resources He provides, actually draws your heart away from the giver.
Then it's become an idol.
Precisely. It's become an idol. The heart's posture, its dependence, its focus must remain stable, regardless of what the bank balance says.
That brings us beautifully into our final habit, habit 4. Keeping eternity firmly in mind when we interact with our finances.
This habit is like the ultimate reset button, I think. When we forget the core truth, that we are merely sojourners here, temporary travelers.
Passing through.
Yeah. That this earth is not our permanent dwelling place. Money automatically becomes far too important in our daily focus. It takes on an emotional weight it was never designed to carry.
But when we zoom out, when we really adopt that eternal perspective, we remember our primary purpose here, which is what?
It's the Great Commission, ultimately. Go forth and make disciples of the nations. That's the mission.
So when we truly develop the habit of seeing things from an eternal perspective, it dramatically changes how we save, how we spend, and especially how we give.
It has to. And to really reinforce this eternal confidence, let's revisit that stunning imagery from Revelation chapter 4. It's incredibly powerful.
Describe it for us.
Okay, so the scene shows Yahweh seated on the throne in just unapproachable glory. He's surrounded by these four living creatures who never, ever cease saying, "Holy, holy, holy." The constant worship.
Okay, I can picture that.
But then look at the 24 elders. These were the victors, clothed in white robes, representing the redeemed. What are they doing?
What are they doing?
They are casting their crowns. Every accomplishment, every victory, every single success they attained on earth, they're casting them down before Yahweh's throne.
Why?
Because they recognize in that eternal reality that everything they ever achieved was entirely dependent on him. It all came from him.
Okay, so connect that back. How does that image give me confidence in my earthly finances today? That's the link people might miss.
Right, because when you daily remind yourself that the ultimate purpose of every single resource you steward, your time, your money, your influence, your ideas, is to be used for his eternal glory. You stop hoarding temporary things. You start using them freely, maybe even boldly, for his will, because you're confident that the giver who sits on that glorious throne controls all supply. You trust that he will provide the material things you need here on earth to accomplish the specific task he gave you.
That's it. The confidence comes from knowing who is ultimately in charge.
Exactly. It shifts your entire framework from scarcity and fear to trust and purpose.
So what does this all mean when we bring it together? If you synthesize these four biblical money habits, seeing Yahweh accurately, stewarding those God-given ideas, guarding your heart against idolatry, and keeping eternity in mind, you realize they all converge on one central, unchanging truth.
Which is?
It's all about the heart. Money is merely a thermometer, isn't it? It just reveals the condition of our heart toward Yahweh.
Absolutely. The goal is heart alignment. And we've seen that this alignment applies just as much today, even with modern tools and platforms for commerce and creation. Yahweh provides the ideas, and he also provides the tools for us to execute them in his service.
Okay, so here's a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to take away today. If getting your heart right truly means Yahweh can trust you with more resources here on earth, what is the immediate, non-negotiable step you need to take? Maybe it's a spending review. Maybe it's a dedicated moment of intentional prayer. Or maybe it's finally launching that delayed God-given idea. What will you do today to ensure your internal operating system is aligned with his eternal kingdom rather than the temporary kingdom of this world?